It's a new day, it's a new week, it's a new vibe, and Argyle are hoping to be feeling good. Hello, good afternoon. I'm Erin Black and this is Argyle TV, and we are back for another weekend of football here at Home Park. 15 months ago, Stephen Schumacher picked up his first win as Argyle manager against Charlton Athletic, and today he'll be very much hoping for another 3 points. It's all got a little bit close at the top of the table. Sky Bet League One, of course. With a defeat last weekend, Argyle will be hoping to bounce straight back from that. Their gap to the chasing pack was cut to 5 points, but they are on home soil today and hopefully confident of a win. Kickoff, as always, will be at 3 p.m. on this Saturday afternoon. So before we do that, we need to bring you up to speed with everything that's been going on. We're going to be having some team news this afternoon. We'll be chatting to Ryan Hardie and hearing from Stephen Schumacher on today's game. And all of that will be happening in the company of former Argyle women's captain, Katie Middleton. Katie, Argyle need a little bit of a reaction today, don't they?
Yeah, most certainly. I think the last couple of games maybe haven't been up to the standards that have been set so far throughout the season. Obviously a 0-0 draw here against Fleetwood, and then the less said about last weekend's performance, I think the better, but certainly looking to bounce back again today.
Yeah, I mean, as much as we don't want to talk about it, we are, of course, going to have to touch on some of the moments for that. But, you know, having said that, it was an off day. For Argyle, it was actually their only 5th loss of the season. So in the grand scheme of things, while the scoreline was in no way, shape or form good news for the Green Army, if we look at the bigger picture, hopefully maybe not as dramatic as it needs to be.
Yeah, I mean, we've said it many times before that there are going to be days that don't go your way, and last weekend was obviously one of those. And you know, we're not defined by a single game during the season. It's a collection of everything that goes on from the first game at the end of July this season to when we finish in 12 games time. So yeah, last week was an off day, I think, from front to back. Shuey made changes during the game. I think that was probably him putting his hands up a little bit and saying, maybe I got the selection wrong from the start of the game. But, these games happen. It's about how they bounce back. And previously this season, when we've had heavy defeats, that's happened. And we'll be looking to certainly get off on the right foot today.
Yeah. I mean, he's had the luxury of being able to make a lot of changes, whether that be the starting lineup or throughout the game. So perhaps maybe it was just a matter of time for him to then put a team together that wasn't going to pull off a win.
Yeah, and I think, you know, there's probably been a lot of questions asked, mainly amongst the fans, in terms of, you know, are all the changes helpful? I think maybe if you look at the last couple of performances that have been a bit more disjointed, you'd be starting to think, you know, is it better to have a slightly more settled starting 11 who know their jobs inside out, you know, can build relationships, can build partnerships over the pitch. But on the flip side of that, you've got to look at what he's done so far this season. Yeah. He's made changes, he's kept things fresh, and 9 times out of 10 it's worked for him. So, like we said, one of those days last weekend, and, you know, there's bound to be a few more changes again today. And how do we react from last week's performance and put on a show for the crowd here today?
Yeah, we'll have a look in a minute. I think we're looking at about 5 changes today and maybe a more back to basics Argyle squad, if we put it in those terms. But in regards to where Argyle are in the league, you know, they are still in second place and they've got a cushion at the top of the table as well. It is 5 points rather than 3 points.
Yeah, and, you know, again, it's, you know, everyone looks at a result and says, oh, God, it's terrible. Yeah. But they're second in the league for a reason. You know, Peterborough, who played last weekend, have been on a good little run, you know, challenging for playoff places, so they're by no means a terrible side. And as we said, these things will go against you at times, but you've still got that little buffer to third place. It's all still to play for, isn't it? And it makes it exciting.
Yeah. Do you think Argyle will be grateful that the game following that defeat is, you know, going to be here at Home Park in front of their home fans? Do you think they'll be able to rally the atmosphere back up again?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. And I think so far this season, you know, this crowd have played a massive part in what Argyle have done. And you look at the results at home, it's only, you know, 2 games here, I think, where we haven't picked up 3 points. Yeah. So, you know, playing here at Home Park is definitely a massive advantage. Teams don't want to come here, they don't want to play here. Yeah. Because of those results. So hopefully the fans can get behind them today from the start of the game and we can see something special.
Yeah, I think the Green Army will very much be looking to put last week behind them for sure. It's not one that any of us want to dwell on, as Katie's already mentioned. So let's have a little look at the Argyle team that are going to be starting for you this afternoon. As previously mentioned, 5 changes, and your team is as follows: Callum Burton, Macaulay Gillespie, Jordan Houghton, James Wilson, Matt Butcher, Joe Edwards, Ryan Hardie, Danny Mayer, Barley Mumba, Finn Azaz and Brendan Galloway. And on the subs bench this afternoon, Adam Parks, Niall Ennis, Sam Cosgrove, Nigel Lonvike, Saxon Early, Callum Wright and Jay Mattetti. Katie, looking at this squad that Steven Schumacher's put forward today, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, like you said earlier, it's kind of a back to what we know, isn't it? You know, none of the January signings are in the starting lineup, and I think it's a chance for these players that have been here for a little while now to again sort of show their worth. And you know, we keep talking about last week, but it's about how you react to that. And these players who've been around for a little while know what this football club's all about, will certainly be wanting to put things right. So I think he's gone, you know, normal formation, what we'd expect. Probably playing Azaz in behind, Hardie with Danny Mayer as well. So lots of attacking potential, lots of game changers in there, lots of people who can unlock defences and make things happen. And I think that's really important today, that we're positive going forwards.
Yeah, I suppose it makes sense, you know, really in the grand scheme of things, coming off quite a large defeat like last week, to be putting forward like a tried and tested previous squad. I'm sure Pilgrim Pete agrees, although why you're not in the starting lineup, Pete, is a mystery to me. But we'll keep an eye on you at half-time, get the goals in. Is this your score prediction? 2-0. Nice.
We'll take that.
Pilgrim Pete always, he always knows what to say in the most troubling of times. Yes, do you think Steven Schumacher, this is kind of a, you know, maybe an expected lineup for him to kind of produce off the back of what we saw last week?
I don't know what the expected lineups are these days. They change so regularly, don't they, that it's hard to kind of keep, you know, he obviously has his reasons behind it. He has his thinking. But I think he's gone for kind of a solid setup of... Like
reverted a little bit,
yeah, almost to say, you know, this is where we're at, this is what we need today. Can these players who've got that shirt to start the game. You know, can you go out and put on a performance for themselves, the crowd here, and obviously it's important that we keep picking up points, because otherwise the gap at the top just closes and closes and closes, and the pressure becomes more intense.
And we have, of course, got some of our newer signings, you know, as subs today, so it is quite likely that we will see them come out at some point this afternoon, and a few of them fan favourites kind of already, aren't they?
Yeah, and again, Shuey's used his bench so well throughout the season. He tried to change things last weekend when things weren't going so well. He'll look to do the same again today, whether that's, we need goals. You've got goals on the bench. You've got, Cosgrove there. You've got Niall Ennis on the bench who can come on. And then, like you said, you've got the newer signings that we know have scored goals. Saxon Early's scored a couple already from his left wing back role. So there's definitely changes that can be made if things need to change. Hopefully everything's going plain sailing and we're 3 or 4 goals up and he can make a few changes and give players a run out. But there's definitely options there, and we'll see what Shuey does today. Yeah, I mean, that would absolutely be, I think, the result that everyone is crying out for this afternoon. Let's turn our attention to the Charlton side that we are up against this afternoon. They, of course, have also got their starting 11 lined up and ready for us to take a look at, and they consist of Ashley Maynard-Brewer, Stephen Sessignon, George Dobson, Michael Hector, Macaulay Bonn, Gavin Kilkenny, Jesserun Raksaki, Jack Payne, Ryan Innes, Sean Clare and Lucas Ness, and on their subs bench, Joe Wallacott, Terrell Thomas, Albie Morgan, Corey Blackett-Taylor, Aaron Henry, Miles Leeburn, Daniel Kanu. I mean, looking at Charlton's squad as well, there's a name there that we are familiar with in Stephen Sessignon. I think I saw some people saying hi to him earlier on. What are you looking at with the Charlton side, Katie? Yeah, I think there's one enforced change for them from their midweek game against Peterborough. I think an injury in the middle of midfield, but other than that, I think what they'll do is they'll probably match up our formation, play 3 at the back with wing backs. They've got Raksaki up front, who has scored 10 goals, I think, this season for them, so will be dangerous. And then again, they've got options off the bench who can potentially cause us trouble. It was Charlton who, at the beginning of the season, knocked in 5 against us up at their place. So we'll certainly be looking to reverse the tables a little bit and hopefully get a similar result on the flip side. I can imagine they might be feeling quite confident coming into this game with that, as a factor, and also the fact that Argyle are coming back off quite a heavy hitting loss. They might be fancying their chances a little bit. Yeah, I think it's one of those, isn't it? Are you coming to play against a wounded animal who might come out and really go gung-ho and go for it? Charlton aren't on the best run themselves, lost 2, drawn 1 of their last 3, haven't scored any goals in those 3 games. So, it's the same thing, isn't it? They've got a point to prove when they come here. Like we said, they're going to be a dangerous side. I think Dean Holden's got them trying to play the right way. He was pleased with their performance in midweek, where they were getting runners past the ball, and I think that's something we should expect to see again today. Hopefully 2 sides that want to get the ball down, play football, and put on a decent performance. Yeah, it's one of those things where you just have to weigh everything up in balance. Like you said, Argyle coming from a loss, but Charlton, no goal in 3 matches. They lost a lot of their players in January, whereas we seem to accumulate quite a lot, which puts us in a better position in that respect. And as you mentioned, Raksaki there, he's playing despite calls for a suspension. So lots to look at as the game progresses this afternoon. Let's hear from the manager then. Losses haven't been something that have happened too often, luckily, for Stephen Schumacher, and he's hoping that he can get a good reaction today from the players.
Gaffer, how quickly do you put Saturday behind you when you get through into this kind of week?
You have to put it away quickly, yeah. I think it's important that you do. You can't dwell on one bad performance or one bad result. It's important also that you go over it and figure out what went wrong, which we did with the players. We had a good chat on Tuesday and went through the clips and spoke about where we could have done better. But then I also showed them that we did some good things in the game. We played some half-decent attacking football. We had more penalty box entries than Peterborough, more final third entries than Peterborough, but didn't make the most of them. So, yeah, and we allowed them too many at our end, which that was how, and we got punished. But yeah, it's important that you move on quick, because I say there's another tough game coming on Saturday and 3 tough games in a week.
Speaking of moving on, if you go back and look at the other 4 games, because it's only been 5 games that you've lost so far this season in the league, after the other 4, it's been 3 wins and a draw. So 10 points from 4 games in the games immediately following defeats, if you see my point.
Yeah.
Do you take heart from that your team has reacted really well every time you've had a defeat so far?
Yeah, definitely take heart from it. And again, that's probably another reason why we are where we are in the league, at the top end of the division, because we've shown that ability to not dwell on it, not let it fester for too long and try and put it right in the next game. So 10 points from all them games is good. And yeah, if we show a reaction and learn from our mistakes from last week and get the game plan right, then hopefully we can get another good result and get a few more points on the board.
One of those 4 defeats was against Charlton, but that feels like a very long time. I think it was game 4 of the season or something, wasn't it? It was in August. A lot has changed since then. Personnel from both teams, the manager of Charlton, all sorts of things. So how much are you able to look at that game, you know, in the context of this, and how much do you look at it and go, actually, it's almost like it's 2 completely different teams?
Yeah, a little bit of both. So we will watch that game back again, because obviously to go over their players, figure out what their strengths are, what they do when they get the ball and where they go. I know they've got a different manager who's playing slightly different style, but the players are still the players and still got their threats. So we'll have to go and watch our game back and figure out what happened. I remember it being one of them mad games that seemed to get away from us. We were all in the game and then all of a sudden miles out of it at half time with 2 goals right on the stroke at half time and a sending off for us. So yeah, we got pumped that night, and hopefully we don't have a result like that again on Saturday.
No, that's the technical term, isn't it? Yeah, pumped that night. In terms of the game you're expecting this week, it almost feels a bit similar to speaking to you last week about Peterborough. They were one of those teams that are hard to predict. Maybe Charlton are a bit similar. They're about as mid-table as you can get in terms of points, wins, losses, etc. But they are very capable on their day. Yeah, and I watched them both on Tuesday night, played each other and played out a 0-0 draw with all them attacking players on the pitch. So it's just mad. The season's mad. No one would have expected probably Peterborough to be in the bottom half of the table when we played them last week, and Charlton same, because of the players that they've got, because of the squad that they've got. They've got real weapons that can hurt you. So yeah, we got punished by Peterborough's firepower on Saturday, and so we're going to have to do better defensively against Charlton, because if we don't defend better, if we don't play better as a team, then we'll get punished again. So that's our job, to try and make sure that we're right.
Welcome back. There has always been a reaction after a defeat, and it's phrases like this that I'm always really loath to say because I don't want to tempt fate, but we have had no back-to-back losses this season, and hopefully we won't have one today. Having a home game, as we mentioned, Katie, is probably the perfect circumstances to respond, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah. And, you know, we've spoken about how much of a fortress it's been here at Home Park this season, and yeah, the results have been phenomenal so far. Only 2 games where we failed to pick up maximum points, so it definitely is a good opportunity to get back on track and hopefully score a few goals and get this crowd behind us.
I mean, we are in March now. There's not tons of games left. You know, some might say we've got a tough few weeks coming up. We've got Derby coming on Tuesday, and, you know, people may be calling that last weekend was very much a blip. It is not often that Argyle kind of concedes as many goals as they do like that. So Stephen Schumacher in that VT talking about how they'll be learning from mistakes. Do you think that's very much, rather than dwelling on the actual loss as a whole, it's certainly a learning exercise for him and the players, isn't it? Yeah,
definitely, and it'll be about individual players putting mistakes right from last week, you know, working as units to correct issues that happened, that went wrong. You know, we were very open last week, and obviously that enabled them to score 5 goals against us. So, but that doesn't come down to defenders being bad at defending. That comes down to the whole team defending as units and doing what they're meant to do. So it's certainly a case of players looking to put things right. You know, we've spoken about it, these things happen, games like that happen throughout seasons. You're never going to go, you know, undefeated throughout a season. So it's how they react today and making sure that they right the wrongs from last weekend.
Yeah, it's interesting how Argyle can still be in such a good position, and yet they're just, we were talking off air about this kind of atmosphere of slight tension and pressure that there seems, and I think it's fair to say that pressure will continue to follow Argyle all the way until the bitter end, won't it?
I think it'll continue to mount and get worse as the season progresses as well. I think it's 12 league games, something like that we've got left now. So every game the pressure builds a little bit more because you're getting closer to that end goal of promotion, and the more points you drop, if teams around you pick up points, it closes the gap, it puts pressure on, and essentially, these players have worked so hard throughout the season and obviously you think about last season as well, how things kind of fell away a little bit at the end.
Do you think that maybe plays into it? Because I think as much as we have tried to push that into the back of our mind, as the end of the season grows ever closer, I think everyone's getting flashbacks to what happened here at Home Park.
Yeah, I mean, the end of the season last season was obviously a terrible way to finish, and that 5-0 loss here to MK Dons for the last home game. And I think it does play on your mind a little bit, and that's what the fans are thinking. And rival fans get in your ear a little bit. Here come Plymouth Argyle again. Falling away at the end. So that's why I think again today is really important that we bounce back and put on a little show again to say actually we're right up there for a reason, and we're going to fight to the very end to get what we want.
And we have been top of the league, and we are only second in the league now. So Argyle have proven they've got the quality. Like they are capable of doing it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and the faith in the players is there from Shuey. He knows exactly what everyone can offer and what they can give, and it's about just finding those small margins, correcting things that go wrong from week to week, and really trying to build on that. And you've got 12 plus a Wembley day out, 13 cup finals to go between now and the end of the season, and it's just about picking up points. And to be honest, if the performance isn't pretty today, who cares, as long as there's a result at the end of it.
Exactly, we will certainly be looking to get some more points on the board, and I'm sure you are looking forward to that too. So get in touch and let us know where you're watching from in the world, what your plans are for the day, what maybe your score predictions are, or any suggestions you might have for what Steven Schumacher should be doing with the squad. We always like to read them out. Anyway, all the social media information on the screen for you, and best one to get in touch with is Twitter. We are at Argyle on that one. We'll read them all out over the course of the game this afternoon. Just a reminder, you are watching Argyle TV with me, Erin Black, and Katie Middleton. And coming up after this, we will be hearing from top scorer Ryan Hardie, so don't go anywhere. So if Argyle are to do well today, then it's very likely that Ryan Hardie will have a good game. Maybe we'll even see a goal or two from him. He is making his 150th appearance this afternoon, and he spoke about that to Argyle TV.
It's a massive achievement for me. As I said, it's something that I never envisioned when I did sign here. It was only a loan deal for 6 months, so to go on and make that achievement is going to be one that I'll be proud of, and definitely my family's proud of it. There's been a lot of people here lately. To make 100 appearances for this club, it's going to be a special one for me. As soon as I got down here and had the taste of it, it's somewhere that I wanted to play. A lot of football. It's the most I've played for any club by a long stretch. It's came quickly. It's probably about 150 all in nearly. I think it was like 148. So to play that many games for one club, it's something that I'm definitely proud of and looking forward to hitting that milestone.
You clearly know your stats because it is 148. Yeah. And you're also closing in on 50 goals.
I knew that one. I knew that one for sure. But that's, as you say, it's a lot of games, and it's a start that I'm proud of playing for this club.
You said, especially the last couple of seasons, but the target's always been to improve on your goal tally from the season before, and barring one season, you've basically done that. Yeah. You're kind of on course to do it again. Do you feel properly at your best at the moment? Yeah, definitely. I think it's shown as of late. I think I've played a few games in a row, which helps for momentum and a bit of rhythm. So, definitely. I feel like I'm improving every year. This year, we're playing a lot of different formations, and there's a lot of changes in the team. So it's been one that we've been all adjusting to, and I think we've all settled in pretty well. You've done well against Peterborough personally recently. I think it's 3 goals in the last couple of matches against them. 2 in the cup last season, 1 here. Start of this season. Do you feel when you have a good run against a certain team that you feel particularly confident when you come up against them again? Yeah, I go into every game hoping that I'll score, and I'm confident that I'll score in every game. But as you say, I've got a good record against Peterborough. To be honest, I don't even remember the first game of the season. I don't remember last week, never mind then. But it is something that you'll think of if I've scored here. Then it's just about repetition and doing it again. But it is one that we're all looking forward to. And it's key, I suppose, isn't it? Especially after Tuesday night and having such an achievement, to continue that form going into the league. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's going to give us a bit of excitement, a bit of a taster for what's to come. If that's what happens when we get to the final of the Papa John's, then what's going to happen if we do get promoted? So it's something that's just gave us an extra kick, get an extra buzz to get ourselves going again, and just carry out that form into the rest of the season, really.
Ryan Hardie was the fans' player of the month last month for February. He has 5 goals in his last 9 matches. And Katie, you say hitting good form at this time?
Yeah, it's all about scoring goals, isn't it? As a striker, that's what they're judged on all the time. So, you look at all of the strikers we've got, they've had relatively good output for the season. So, certainly looking for Ryan Hardie to have a good game today, and fingers crossed to add to those stats.
Yeah, and there's a fair bit of competition up front on the squad. We have seen Ryan Hardie both starting and being on the subs bench, with equal kind of variety over the course of the season. Seems to be back, I don't want to say in favour, because it's not like he was ever out of favour, but we're seeing him start today. He's obviously on a good run. What do you think makes him difficult to play against, and why does Steven Schumacher keep coming back to relying on him?
Yeah, I mean, as a defender, he'd be absolutely horrible to play against, because he just never stops running. And sometimes I think that goes a little bit unnoticed by the fans. Like we said, they're judged on numbers all the time. Yeah. But actually, when you look at his performance, all right, he might not always have the best game, but he'll give 150% every game he plays. And he really gives us a different option of being able to kind of stretch the defence a little bit, and gives us that pace to be able to play slightly longer, get balls in behind and get him chasing. And he'll run down things that you think, God, why is he even bothering to chase after it, and manages to win something out of it. So, and then on the flip side of that, he's actually a really good finisher at the same time. We saw that in the semi-final game against Cheltenham. His goal that night was a really, really decent finish. So he's definitely got, yes, he works hard, but he's also got that quality that can unlock things when we need it to.
Do you think we're going to see him, really start to rack up the goals to a significant number that he'll be happy with as we reach the end of the season?
Yeah, I think so. I think so far this season he's got 15, I think 11 in the league and 4 in the cup. So
20 is maybe a reasonable
Yeah,
shout.
I mean, why not? And that's certainly what he'll be looking to do. If you look between now and the end of the season, 12, 13 games to go, gives him plenty of opportunity to score another 5. And, they want to keep pushing each other. They want to be, reaching those kinds of numbers. And if we're getting strikers that are hitting 20 goals a season, it's been a good season.
Yeah. I mean, 150th game for him today as well. He's really starting to kind of go down in Argyle history, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, and he's liked by the fans. Like you said earlier, Schumacher obviously, can rely on him to go and do a job and put on a good performance more often than not. So, for anyone to reach 150 games for a team is a really good milestone to reach. So I'm sure he'll be really proud of the contribution he's made to the club so far.
Yeah, and I guess, part of today's game in particular is just the keys to getting him into those goal-scoring positions, because like you said, when he's in the right place, it's, coming home essentially.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Danny Mayer, Finn Azaz will have really important jobs to do today to try and free Hardie up a little bit. Yeah, if you can get them on the ball, coming in a little bit shorter, drawing the defenders out with them, and it'll create those little pockets of space for Ryan Hardie to be able to run into and find. So, like I said, if we've got the option to play long to him, he'll chase things in behind, but then you've got those ball players in front of him who, if they can get on the ball and unlock things, will free up those spaces for Ryan Hardie to do some damage.
Yeah. It's interesting, obviously you mentioned Finn Azaz. One way that Hardie might be getting some chances this afternoon is through the creativity of Finn Azaz. He's been back playing for a month now and is very keen to kick on.
We've had some time to kind of get over the loss. It was a tough game, but now all eyes are on Saturday.
I think in some ways it might be easier for players than it is for fans, is it, after something like that, because you can get back in and get straight back to work and get sorted on putting it right, as it were.
I think when the games come, like on a Tuesday and stuff, it's easier because there's just another game quickly, but when there's a week it can be tough. But like I say, we've had a bit of time to digest it, and now we're just positive for the weekend.
Good stuff. We spoke to the skipper after the game, to Joe Edwards after Saturday, and he said it's very much a case of not getting too low when you get beat, not getting too high when you win. Is that the same for all the lads?
Yeah, that's the mentality we've got, for sure.
In terms of how we've reacted before, it's only our 5th loss in 33, so we're not getting carried away about anything. And of those other 4, we've won 3 and drawn 1 of the next game. So that shows a great mentality, and I'm assuming that's the place everyone's in for Saturday.
Yeah, I think there's that saying where you don't lose 2 on the bounce, and I think that no one's panicking, we'll stay calm, and yeah, we'll be fine.
How are you feeling? You were out for a little bit with an injury, which I imagine was frustrating for you, but you're fit and flying now.
Yeah, I'm 100% now.
What's it like for having to spend that little bit of time out watching? Because everything was going so well for you and for the team, and you have to have that little bit of time out. And of course, it's a big squad, and there's lots of people that want to step in. Are you a frustrated fan when you're having to watch?
I think I think everyone that's injured, it's not nice to watch. It's not nice to be in the stands, but you've got to just use it to drive you, and that's what I do. And
I think the good thing is that no one feels like they're being rushed back in. It's not like we've got a threadbare squad. We've got to get Finn on the pitch because we need him. Actually, it's lovely to have you back, but there are other people that can do that. Is that nice for your recovery that when you're back, you know that you're 100%?
No, you just want to be playing. You just want to be playing.
That's fair enough. The game last week, you came on as a first half substitute. That doesn't happen very often. Was it? What was the mentality for you trying to come on and trying to have to change things?
Well, I think I'm a player who will be ready if I'm on the bench, so I was ready to come on whenever. From a mental standpoint, obviously you don't expect it, but I was ready, so it was fine.
Let's have a quick shout out to some of you watching Argyle TV from all around the world. First, we've got to mention Ken Sealman and Rob Lepley, who have got in touch on Twitter. I believe both watching from the US, so they'll be part of the Argyle USA contingency, which is lovely. And of course, no Argyle TV social call is complete without mentioning the wonderful Tatsumaki Bones over in Japan. And I believe we've got something to show you, which I'm very pleased about. It's the Charlie Price mask. It's officially been made, but we've also got a paddle of Charlie as well, which I'm sure he'll be very pleased about. He's now fully integrated in the Tatsumaki Bones memorabilia selection. Charlie, of course, on commentary duty today. I hope he spends a large portion of the match just talking about how privileged he feels to be part of our exciting new club. I know Katie's got a paddle as well, and I think Katie's got a mask too, so well, I'm sure we'll touch base on that as well at halftime, because that's one of Katie's favourite things to talk about too. But thank you for getting in touch. Continue sending us your photos all the way over in Japan, and we love to hear from the rest of you too. Right, we are getting closer and closer to kick-off this afternoon. We will continue our build-up and hear from the Charlton manager, Dean Holden, next.
Can you pledge 35 hours for Project 35?
Pledge 35 hours for Project 35.
Pledge 35 hours for Project 35.
This is Argyle TV. You're back with me, Erin and Katie. Just under 30 minutes away now from kick-off here, Argyle against Charlton at Home Park. They beat Argyle 5-1 earlier in the season, and they've seen a little bit of a revival under boss Dean Holden. But they have hit a little bit of a sticky patch, as Katie alluded to earlier. Just one win in 5. What do you put that down to, Katie?
I think when a new manager comes in, I think Dean Holden came in and took over just before Christmas time. It's about that manager sort of finding out what players they've got available to them, what they feel like their best attributes are, how they get the best out of players, and sometimes that can take a little bit of time. We're starting to get towards the end of the season now, and Charlton are a side that historically you think of as a bigger club who potentially haven't reached their potential so far. So, he'll be looking to get the most out of those players that he's got, and figure out what his best starting 11 is.
Yeah, and like Argyle, their last game was at Peterborough, a 0-0 draw. And looking at some of their highlights, do you think the fact that they haven't scored in a while will be weighing on their conscience a little bit, making them panic perhaps?
Yeah, I think sometimes when you go a run of games without scoring, you start to try to kind of force things a little bit and try to make things happen, rather than kind of allowing things to happen. So it will certainly be something that they'll want to put right today. Obviously, off the back of a heavy defeat from Argyle last weekend, they might see this as an opportunity today to think, a shaky defence who conceded 5, can we go and get something against them? But on the flip side of that, Argyle will be looking to defend better today. Yeah. Maybe give Callum Burton a little bit more cover in front of him. He was left exposed at times last weekend. So, the results of recent times maybe say, is it going to be a low-scoring game today? But, fingers crossed for the Green Army fans out there that isn't the case and the goals flying for us.
Yes, or it is a low-scoring game and not the goals flying in from the other end, as we have seen before. They are 18 points off the playoffs. Do you think that's a little bit too much for them?
I think so, yeah. I think, they're probably not going to make a late dash for the playoffs. They probably won't get sucked into the relegation places. So I think for them it's just a case of playing out this season, seeing what they can achieve, how high up the table they can finish, and hopefully it doesn't start with 3 points today.
Absolutely the case. Let's remind ourselves then of the teams that are playing this afternoon, with your starting 11 for Argyle coming first. We have got Callum Burton, Macaulay Gillespie, Jordan Houghton, James Wilson, Matt Butcher, Joe Edwards, Ryan Hardie, Danny Mayer, Barley Mumba, Finn Azaz and Brendan Galloway. And on the subs bench, Adam Parks, Niall Ennis, Sam Cosgrove, Nigel Lonvike, Saxon Early, Callum Wright and Jay Matete. Brendan Galloway, obviously a name in there, nice to see him kind of back. I think this is his first start for quite a while, isn't it, Katie?
Yeah, it is. And, again, you look at it and say, more changes to the back line, and is that kind of going against us a little bit? But Galloway's an experienced player. He got Wilson in there alongside him. Gillespie, who's probably been one of the better performances in recent weeks.
Yeah.
So, 3 players who know what they need to do, and like we said, if they can protect Callum Burton a little bit more today, but we've spoken about it already, it's not just what that back 3, that back 5 do at times, it's about how the whole team respond today and how they can go about stopping Charlton from scoring.
Do you think the lack of Dan Scar is perhaps being noticed, looking at last game?
Yeah, I mean Dan Scar's been a big player for us this season, and he wins balls in the air. He deals with things from set pieces, and that's probably something we've been lacking a little bit in the last couple of weeks. So he's certainly a big miss for us, but the players that Shuey's got available to him, he knows that they're capable of going out there and doing a job, so it's about proving that today.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's look at Charlton as well. Their starting 11 consists of Ashley Maynard-Brewer, Stephen Sessegnon, George Dobson, Michael Hector, Macaulay Bonne, Gavin Kilkenny, Jessurun Raksaki, Jack Payne, Ryan Innes, Sean Clare, Lucas Ness, and on their bench, Joe Wallacott, Terrell Thomas, Albie Morgan, Corey Blackett-Taylor, Aaron Henry, Miles Leeburn and Daniel Kanu. Before we hand away for commentary in a minute, Katie, a quick word on you. Today's game is important, isn't it? But how important would you say?
Yeah, it's a massive game today. Not only in the context of kind of the league, but obviously as a result of what happened last weekend. How do we bounce back? What sort of performance can we put on today? The fans here, it's filling up nicely behind us, but they'll be looking to put on a show, put on a performance to, quieten down, like we said, the tension that's around the ground a little bit at the moment. And can we get ahead early in the game? Can we look to build on that? But yeah, massive game today and really important to get 3 points.
Yeah, I mean, people have been mentioning the last time Argyle lost by such a large margin. They did go on to have a really successful run. So I imagine they'll be very much hoping to replicate that and not maybe end up on a bit of a downer and a losing streak here.
Yeah, and it's credit to the players that every time we've had a defeat, we've bounced back, and that shows the mentality that we've got within the squad. And we've spoken about it. It's not about just the importance of the starting 11, but the players that are on the bench, how Shuey manages that, what changes he makes throughout the game, depending on how things are going. So, really, really important game, and fingers crossed for a big performance.
Yeah, and Derby coming up here on Tuesday as well, so it just kind of continues, doesn't it?
It doesn't stop, and then Barnsley away next weekend. So. A really, really important week in our whole season, and if we can, come out at the end of next Saturday unscathed, then I think Shuey will be really pleased, and this crowd will start to believe a little bit again.
Yeah, this is very much the moment for Argyle to show everyone what they're made of. Let's have a little look at the other games being played today, because I'm sure everyone will very much keenly have their eye on the rest of the fixtures. We've got Sheffield Wednesday at home to Peterborough. Derby, who are our next contenders, play Shrewsbury, while Ipswich are playing Burton. Bolton played Morecambe in the early game as well, so we'll have all the scores for you later on at half-time, how everything's progressed so far throughout the afternoon. Very much watch this space. It's now almost time to hand back over to Charlie up in the commentary box, who's going to be guiding you through the game afternoon. Katie, do you want to take a punt at a score today like Pilgrim Pete?
Yeah, I think I might match his. If we can win 2-0, I think that's a decent performance, decent result. So yeah, 2-0 to the Greens.
Yeah, and do you think Argyle are going to be coming out today to kind of grind out a win, or like you said, coming off the back of that, really straight out of the gate, showing everyone what they're made of?
Yeah, that's what the hope, isn't it? Is that we come out firing, get on top in the game in the first 10-15 minutes, and then once you start to do that, you can see we've got quality, we can play football. So let's try and get it down. Let's try and link through the thirds as much as we can, and show this sellout crowd what Plymouth Argyle is all about, and how Shuey wants them to play football.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to win, you want to do it at home park in front of all the fans cheering you on. The atmosphere when Argyle do put on a spectacular game, as we saw at the semi-final of the Papa John's Trophy, is next level when it all goes our way, isn't it?
Yeah, no, they're a great following, and we've said before about how well they travel, and this support they get on the road is insane, really, for how far these fans have to travel. So you think back here a couple of weeks ago when we beat Portsmouth 3-1, the stadium was absolutely rocking that day. So hoping for another similar performance, similar result, and give these fans something to cheer about.
Yeah, time for Argyle to pick themselves up, dust themselves off, and bring home a win for everyone today. That is it for the build-up here on Argyle TV. Katie, thank you very much for joining us for that, and we'll be back again at half-time, of course. You can follow all the action of today's game over on Argyle TV, and if you're watching overseas, you can stream the game for just £10. If you live inside the UK, then the commentary is available to purchase for you as well, and that is just £2.50. Head over to pafc.co.uk for all the details on how to buy your pass. Charlie Price and Brian McGlinchey are standing by for commentary, and they will be guiding you through the whole game as it happens. So we'll hand over to them. Argyle v Charlton is coming up next.
Into Hardie! On the edge of the area, gets it onto his left foot, Mumba! Good afternoon, welcome along to Home Park for this Sky Bet League One game between the Pilgrims, Plymouth Argyle and Charlton Athletic. Home Park is